Anthony Bowen was the person who founded the first YMCA that admitted people of color. Of course, we know that he was born into slavery in Prince George's County. He was able to moonlight, basically, which sounds really weird when you're talking about an enslaved person, then moonlighting, working extra hours through painting and other tasks to buy his freedom. His house was one of the stops on the Underground Railroad. There were also, one of the churches that he founded was also a stop on the Underground Railroad. So even though Anthony Bowen had his freedom, he didn't stop there, he didn't rest there. He dedicated his life to making sure that other people had their freedom, but not just that people were free, but that they had the ability to live and to prosper and to gain education and to make a difference.
The twin pillars of Anthony Bowen's character were religion and education.
In the 1830s, he built an extra attic in his house so that he could accommodate more people on the Underground Railroad.
He didn't just say, oh, okay, now I'm free. He reached back.
Establishing the right to live in this district and establishing strategies for getting people out of slavery.
He was setting up schools, he was working with churches.
So we see a man who was continuously driven to do things that free white men were incapable of doing.
I always look at people like Anthony Bowen, who was able to rise despite all the obstacles in front of him and be able to inspire others, intentionally, is really quite an amazing thing.
But when we can look at what he did during times of incredible oppression, we have to realize that there was a spirit moving through this man.
Anthony Bowen started working at the USPTO around, the earliest records show that he was there in 1840. He was officially on the books as a USPTO employee. Then it was, of course, the Patent Office. He was on the books as a Patent Office employee in 1841. Now, he started as a laborer, tending fires, washing paints, helping with different tasks there. But that is not where Anthony Bowen stayed. He rose through the ranks at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. He actually worked there for almost 30 years, rising from the role of a laborer to be the first African-American clerk at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It is a remarkable task at any time period, but especially when you think about the time period where Anthony Bowen lived.
The architecture of this building, the fact that a cornerstone was laid, is a symbol of creating a space within a community as a Christian institution for the empowerment of the community that was developing around it.
The 12th Street Y is a perfect example of how community came together in order to create a sacred environment for the development of the young men who participated in the activities within this building, as well as the community which surrounded the building. The fact that it was designed by William Pittman, first African-American architect licensed in Washington, D.C. The idea that only black men worked in the construction of this building speaks to the consciousness of the community. We're going to create a facility for us, by us.
This YMCA was so critical in the development of young African American boys and girls. It gave them a place of value. It gave them a place where they were valued. It gave them to understand that independent of the circumstances of a country which had not recognized their potential, the YMCA recognized their potential.
Once the building was established, it became the cornerstone of the Shaw community in segregated Washington, D.C. It had 54 rooms where men could stay, the first heated Olympic-sized swimming pool in the country. It had a number of meeting rooms, and those meeting rooms served to provide spaces for churches and other community organizations. We know that attorney Thurgood Marshall would meet in the meeting rooms here as he was mapping out the strategies for Brown versus the Board of Education. Joe Louis did a boxing exhibition in the gym. We know that Duke Ellington, who lived in the neighborhood, did a performance here in the building. We know that John Thompson played basketball here in the building. So we know this building is literally filled with the spirits of all of the men and women who lived here, who worked here, who engaged in activities. Even Marcus Garvey spoke in this building.
My father was a member of the YMCA, and he and all of the little boys would gather at the 12th Street Y. These are kids who would take part in the many programs that the YMCA had to address the issues of body, mind, and spirit. When he was between the end of college and the beginning of medical school, he was still vested in the YMCA as an advisor and felt the importance of the YMCA because it had helped him build body, mind, and spirit.
So if the walls could talk, they would tell us a story about a DC that no longer exists, but a story which we must remember, preserve, and to pass down for future generations so that they will understand the significance of this building, but more importantly, understand the significance of the man responsible for its creation, and that is Mr. Anthony Bowen.